So this video is all about the newest renders of the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Remember the big flat display, the powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, up to 16 gigs of RAM, up to 2 terabytes of storage, 45 watt fast charging, if you want to call 45 watt fast charging, 5,000 milliamp battery. Now, colors. There's supposed to be 4 official colors, and there'll probably be more exclusive colors, but the colors that you can kind of buy pretty much anywhere for the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which is going to launch in January of 2024, so just a couple of months away. What is it going to look like? Well, our friend Guilherme has put out a tweet showing these devices off in all of their glory, and I definitely want the purple. Here's these first look of these phones, guys. Let's first check out the gold one, if you want to call it gold. And obviously the flatness of the color or the vibrancy of it or the saturation of it could change, so just keep that in mind. But this is what he's saying the gold could look like. I mean, if it does look like this, I am not a gold flavor guy, but it looks amazing. Truly amazing. Looks beautiful with the matching S Pen, which we're not sure if it's going to have the matching colored S Pen, but if it does, that's what it would look like. Next, my favorite color, the purple. I love this lilac type color purple. I think it looks great on everything. Wallpapers look great with it, and it just flows with everything. Looks good in cases. It's just a really nice color overall, and I love the matching lilac/purple S Pen, the flat display. All of that looks amazing. I know a lot of people on Twitter are liking the gray color, and it does. It looks super nice. I probably wouldn't get the gray color only because, you know, I've had that color before, and I want something with a little bit of vibrancy to it. And, you know, gray isn't the most vibrant color, that's for sure. And then lastly, checking out this black one, which is a nice, rich, deep black color, and black goes great with literally everything just because, you know, it matches everything, and that's always a smart choice to make. But Guilherme did an amazing job with the renders on here. I think the things that I'm most excited for with the S24 Ultra, and I've kind of mentioned it before, is that flat display. I am very curious to try out that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor and just put it to the test. I want to see some crazy, or not even have to be a crazy game, I just want to see games really take full advantage of the processing power and GPU power inside those Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processors. Like, it's high time they kind of unleash the game so that it can take a full advantage of that the power in those processors and GPUs. But regardless, you know, this is a device that if they're changing the guard a little bit, going with that flat display instead of the full curve, not a full curve, but a semi-curved display. And it's seemingly, they're not toning down the cameras, but they kind of are toning them down a little bit, potentially with the zoom and the telephoto and stuff like that. So there's stuff going on with this phone that, you know, some of you guys might be like, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with what I got. And also, you might get stuck with the Exynos 2400 processor, not with the Ultra versions, but the 24 and the 24 Plus versions. So I can see why you might not want to upgrade to these versions of phones, but I think, you know, regardless if you're getting it or not, you gotta admire the beauty of these photos and the colors and that. So both stories today are about the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. And the thing about that phone though is that there's some stuff, and then there's some potentially really good stuff about this phone in both of these stories. So let's talk about the story first. It has to do with the cameras and how they're not or will change. So let's talk about it. So the information, I know Ice Universe talked about it, but this is actually also coming from 91 Mobiles, who said Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 tipped to feature the same camera hardware as the Galaxy Z Fold 5. The Galaxy Z Fold 4 and 5 both feature the same primary camera setup. It is now tipped that the same camera setup could be carried on to the Galaxy Z Fold 6 as well. This comes as a surprise considering that the newly launched OnePlus Open made a leap in foldable camera hardware. And man, you know, I do have to admit that the cameras did improve a little bit on the Z Fold 5 over the Z Fold 4. Is it so drastic where I'm like blown away? No. It's still not my favorite camera on a foldable. I still prefer the Pixel Fold over this. Once I get the OnePlus Open, I'll compare that as well, and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, it's definitely not one of its strong points. It's not awful. It's kind of like a mid-range type camera, and it needs to be improved. And it looks like the Z Fold 6, even though it might be physically different, potentially. It sounds like we're gonna get the same camera hardware, and that's not exciting. You know, it's time to make that next leap. It's time to put better cameras in this, especially when you're paying $1,700, $1,800 for these phones. It gets a little bit ridiculous. The next story though is really interesting stuff, and I don't know if we can trust it or not, but it's definitely super interesting, and it has to do with the design of the next foldable phone from Samsung on their Galaxy Z Fold 6 and how they're potentially going to change the battery size and also the size of the phone in general. So here's the information. This is coming out from the folks over at Android Authority. And they're saying Samsung is dissecting a rival foldable for the Galaxy Z Fold 6 inspiration. Samsung's next foldable could be much thinner and last longer thanks to Huawei. And then the bullet points just say that Samsung is reportedly reverse engineering a Huawei foldable. This is to understand how to make its foldable phones thinner with larger batteries. The Galaxy Z Fold 6 is rumored to feature design changes, and there's potential that the Z Fold 6 will be thinner, lighter, bigger, obviously the same cameras like we mentioned. But I find it's, I mean, they probably do this more oftentimes than not, but by reverse engineering, basically taking it apart, seeing what Huawei did to make a bigger battery than Samsung's in there and put thinner hardware all at the same time. I mean, if they're doing this, I'm assuming they're gonna probably have to do something with making the displays bigger, because if you do that, you'll be able to flatten out the battery and expand it. Instead of thickness, you can do it instead of its length and its width. So that would make sense to me that we're probably gonna, especially if we're gonna see bigger batteries on the Z Fold 6, that we're probably gonna see a bigger inside display and definitely a bigger outside display as well. And those are two of the things, at least that bigger outside display, it's one of the things I want improved with the Z Fold 6. So what do you think? The first one is about the Galaxy S23 phones. It's ridiculous, but there's actually another beta coming out. This is the 9th beta coming out for this phone. It's a little over 400 megs, and it doesn't fix that much stuff. It just adds basically reliability to the OS. So you've got to imagine at this point, the next update they push out, have it be a week or two from now, will be the final update and the real update that everybody can download for their S23 phones. It's literally, it's gotta be seconds away from what we're doing right now. So it's out right now. If you have the beta, download it. Otherwise, you should have the real version in the next, I would say, 2 weeks at most. And our last question is about the OnePlus Open. I received a question from someone asking, why are they charging $1,700 when IPX8, which is water resistance, no wireless charging, no S Pen compatibility? You can get a Fold 5 for $1,400 right now in offers, and you can get this for less than $1,700 as well with trade-in. And I actually got it for $1,499, and then I got it for less with some trade-ins, and it brought it down to like $1,100 or something out the door, $1,000, and I added something extra. So you can get this phone for less too, so mark that off. But why is this phone worth $1,700? Well, against the rest of the market, it's very, very competitive. Has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 16 gigs of RAM, really good cameras, at least that's what people say. I haven't tried them out personally myself fully yet. They have super fast charging at 67 or all the way up to 80 watts, depending upon where you live. So it's a charge in little as 42 minutes. It has a nice, slim, light design. It has 2800 nits of brightness on this big, beautiful display and on the outside display as well. And that outside display is bigger than the Samsung in terms of how you use it. Look at that, it's wider, it's really good size. So overall, the design, the specs definitely lead it to being worth $1,700, which retail price is $100 cheaper than the Pixel Fold and $100 cheaper than the Z Fold 5 as well. Obviously, you're always gonna have, everyone's gonna have sales throughout the year. Fold 5 is an older phone by a few months. So at the end of the day, I definitely think it's worth the competitive market price that it's going at. Do I wish it was lower? Do I think it should be lower? Yeah, because this thing's expensive, but competitively against the market, it's definitely holding up its weight in that. And I'll test this out. I'm not saying it's gonna be a better phone than those other two because I haven't fully tested it, but it's definitely worth it with what they're personally giving to you. And that'll be the first one is a new feature that's coming out to Samsung phones that'll have One UI 6 and later. It's a new free service that is coming. It's basically unlimited cloud storage backup. It's gonna come out this fall. And again, if you have One UI 6 or older, or newer I should say, you'll be able to get it. And it should work with all Samsung devices, having to be tablets or phones. And one of the cool things about this is, like I said, it's unlimited. It does have a file cap, meaning that the file, one per file, can only be 100 gigs or smaller. But you could have 1 million files of 100 gigs or more, and that would be fine. And if you think about how many files do you have that are over 100 gigs, probably none, or if you do, it's very, very few. So this is a really, really cool service. The reason they're coming out with this is really more for if your phone's going in for repair, you can upload basically your entire phone. It can be the Samsung apps and also third-party app data and stuff like that to the cloud, and then pull it once you get your phone, your new phone, or your repair back. You could use it really for anything. It doesn't have to be just for repairs. The other thing is, after 30 days, the file is deleted. So if you upload, 100 files that day, 30 days later, all 100 files will automatically be deleted. So it's not, unlimited data forever. It's it's unlimited data for 30 days. So keep that in mind. It's free though. And that's a pretty cool service, to be honest with you. Especially if you're setting your phone in repair, or maybe you just want two phones and you don't have access to both phones. You could always upload that stuff to the cloud and then pull it down from somewhere else. I love this idea. What do you guys think about it? And our last story of the day is about a phone that I just did a video on today, the OnePlus Open phone, and it being not indestructible, but maybe being a lot more durable than you might think because of it being a foldable phone. So let's talk about this. The story I'm pulling this from is Android Police. They're saying my OnePlus Open just survived a hard drop, dispelling the idea of the fragile foldable. And they do show, here's the picture of it, and you can see that when they dropped it, it does have this kind of big dent on the corner of the body of it. But you know what? They walk away pretty happy about this. They're saying that when the Open slipped off of a patio table and slammed onto concrete, for a phone that has a glass back and two displays, one of which is in half, you would expect major damage, severely affecting those fragile screens and the brittle glass. Damage like this is common among regular glass sandwiches and cost a bomb to repair, something that goes double for foldables. To our surprise, the OnePlus Foldable got away with just a scuff on its metal frame. If you look closely at the image above, the deep scuff gives you a fair idea of how harsh the drop was, but the phone is still surviving with nothing more than a cosmetic blemish, no damage to display either. So, I like hearing these stories. You always hear stories. Most of the stories that are shown on the internet about foldable phones is that, the screen messed up and there's like some weird thing going on the screen, or it cracked, or this broke, or this broke, or this broke, or this broke. This is, it's pretty good. I'm assuming they didn't have a case on it. That's why it has that big dent on the corner of the phone. This is hopeful. Right at this time, we don't have any phones that are really indestructible from any kind of damage, but especially with foldable phones and how people say and fragile they are, this is a good sign. Is this going to be the rule? Hopefully. Is there going to be exceptions? For sure. Some people will drop the phone. I guarantee it's going to break the screen, but this is at least a good sign for that. Let me know your thoughts. Today's story is all about, as you can see from the headline, the OnePlus Open supports S Pen or Stylus, whatever you want to call it. I actually noticed this the other day, and I was planning to make a video. Now there's news stories coming out about it, so I was like, I might as well cover it today in my news story. But it does support S Pen. Why do we know this? First of all, how do I know it? Well, if you go into settings and then you go all the way down, you're going to see additional settings, and then you can go into Stylus. And then also, if you just search under Stylus, a bunch of stuff pops up with features that it can do. There's Stylus handwriting, so you can see additional settings and developer options. You have your what do you got? Oh, you can take a screenshot with the Stylus. You can scroll through pages. You can do screen off notes. So when the screen's off, you can take the S Pen and write directly on the screen. Delay, auto lock, and also there's updates for the Stylus as well. And this all comes to light because again, a bunch of stories have covered it, but so it's been on here for, I think from the time I got it. I don't think the update just pushed that out. But this too, like this tweet from Ishan Agarwal mentions a little bit more detail, saying that the OnePlus Open does support Stylus on both the cover and the main display, while the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5 only supports it on the main one. Seems like they couldn't make the Oppo Pen available globally, available only in China and select Asian markets with Oppo Find N3, weird OnePlus Open. So it looks like you're gonna have to somehow import that pen for the Find N3. But what's cool about this is that if you can, potentially, you're gonna be able to use your pen on this phone on the front and the inside displays. And it's weird, they didn't mention it at all, at least from what I saw, on any of the videos introducing this phone. So hopefully it comes out later, or it's an accessory you can buy for OnePlus that's not overly expensive, especially since we won't have to import it, or we might have to import it in order to get any of this and all of this to work. But you know, if you're an S Pen person or stylus person, you at least have the opportunity to use a stylus with the front and the inside displays, and that's huge. That's huge. There's no other folding phones in the Western world that can actually do that, and it does seemingly a lot of the same stuff that a regular S Pen will be able to do from Samsung. At least some of the stuff. I have one story today. It's about the OnePlus Open. And I always want to say OnePlus Fold. The OnePlus Open still is like I have to remember to say that. But I have found the most annoying thing about this phone, and it's not even new to this OnePlus Open. It's actually it's not even a problem. It's just a huge annoyance for this phone, and it has to do with notifications. I've searched on Reddit, I've searched on the OnePlus forums, I've searched on Google, I've asked on Twitter, and there's no fix for this. And it's the most annoying thing ever. Notifications come up all the notifications, doesn't matter if it's a social media app, a security app, an email app, instant messaging app, it doesn't matter what it is. They all come up the same exact color, this gray-white color for your notifications. And when that happens, it makes seeing the notifications extremely, extremely difficult to decipher what is what. And I hate it. It is so annoying. I've gone through the settings, I've gone through notification settings, I've gone through the theme, that I have set up. Nothing changes it, absolutely nothing. So at that point, I thought I was like, I gotta be doing something wrong. So I started Googling it, and then Reddit, and this. And I think it happened with Android 12 that they started doing that. And it's so annoying. It's so hard to figure out what notifications you have. And again, it's not new to the OnePlus Open. It's on basically all the OnePluses that have newer Android software. And is it enough to make you not get the phone? I don't know about that. I guess the only way around it is to root the phone, and I'm not gonna root it. So it ends up being a huge, huge annoyance. So if you're in this boat or you're thinking about getting this phone, same colored notifications is a huge thing. So basically two stories for you, two reasons to upgrade to the S24 Ultra phone. And are these enough to make you want to upgrade? That remains to be seen, because you don't even know what they are. Well, let's talk about what they are. The first one being a feature we heard that this phone was going to get, at least versions of this phone was going to get for a couple or 3 years at this point. And it still doesn't have it, but the 24 Ultra is supposed to have it. And it's something that the iPhone 15s and 14s already have, and it's the S24 may support satellite communication. Samsung's president of System LSI, Park Young Lee, confirmed that Galaxy phones will support satellite system services starting next year. So S24 phones should come with that satellite feature. That's the feature where, for emergency SOS services, even if you have no cell phone services, you can still reach out to 911 operators and say, hey, I need help, or you can text them and say, I need help. I believe it's all through text on their services. I don't think you actually take a phone call. It would be I could be wrong. So it's either gonna be both, or at least text services where you can tell them that you need those services. iPhones is free. Eventually it probably will cost, but right now iPhones is free. So I expect if Samsung does add it as well, it'll probably also be free. So kind of a very helpful, cool service to have if you're in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service and you need someone to help you because you're injured or hurt or lost. This service could come in super, super handy. The last one has to do with the display, and the display is supposed to be very bright, as we know, on the S24 Ultra. And when you have a display that's really bright, HDR is one of those things that could really help benefit with that bright display. Well, the information that's coming out from Ice Universe is that he's saying it has been confirmed the S24 series supports viewing HDR photos in photo albums similar to Ultra HDR. It has finally come true. So if you've been wanting to view your HDR photos on your display, you now will be able to. So like the lightest of the photo and the darkest tones of the photo, you'll now be able to see those on your display for the S24. So another reason to upgrade. You know, these things aren't super major. I think the satellite one is probably a lot more major than seeing your HDR taking photos on your phone. But still, it's things like this where you build up equity into the phone and make reasons for people to potentially want to buy it. But let me know if these are good enough reasons for you to upgrade or not. Or do you think they're lame? Let me know. Have a great day. We'll see you down the road. Peace.